In this complex world, our hearts sometimes experience emotions so profound that they seem difficult to comprehend, even for ourselves. Sometimes, someone feels irresistibly drawn to another person, but at the same time, is overwhelmed by doubt and confusion. This experience, while profoundly human, also has a spiritual dimension that few take the time to explore. Allah, in His infinite wisdom, knows every subtlety of our emotions and observes every connection between souls. He knows when one heart is deeply attached to another, even if that person themselves does not fully understand the nature of that attachment. The message we wish to share today is simple yet powerful. Deep attachment is not always clear to the human mind, but it is always seen by Allah. When a heart is confused, when a person finds themselves lost in their own feelings, it does not go unnoticed. Allah observes, guides, and sometimes tests these connections, not to lead us astray, but to help us understand the depth of our emotions and learn patience, wisdom, and true love. So what exactly does it mean when someone is confused but deeply attached to you? How can you discern the sincerity of an emotional and spiritual connection when your mind is clouded by doubt? In this video, we will explore the nature of these attachments, the meaning of confusion of the heart, and how Allah guides us through these experiences. We will see how understanding these connections can not only illuminate our own path, but also strengthen our connection with Allah and with others around us. Prepare to dive into a deep reflection on love, confusion, and the divine guidance that accompanies every sincere heart. 1. Spiritual meaning of the attachment of hearts. The attachment of hearts is a phenomenon that is both mysterious and profoundly meaningful. When we say that one heart is bound to another, we are referring to a bond that goes beyond mere affection or friendship. This bond touches the soul itself, the way in which two people understand each other, feel connected, and intensely experience each other's emotions. From the Islamic perspective, this type of bond is never accidental. Allah, the creator of all hearts, knows every thought, every emotion, and every pulse of the soul. Human attachments are often a visible manifestation of His invisible wisdom. Even though human beings may not fully understand why they feel so close to someone, Allah sees the truth of this attachment and knows what it holds for each person. The Quran reminds us that every heart is under the watchful eye of Allah. No soul knows what will be given to it tomorrow, nor does anyone know in what land it will die. Allah is all-knowing, all-wise. Quran 31:34. This verse teaches us that our emotions, bonds, and attachments are all under the perfect knowledge of Allah. When one heart is deeply attached to another, even in confusion, Allah sees and understands the intention and sincerity behind that attachment. This means that the bond is not only emotional, but also spiritual. It is a reminder that our relationships are not isolated from divine guidance. They are, in fact, an integral part of how Allah shapes our experiences to guide us toward patience, understanding, and true love. The Hadith also reinforce this idea. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught that the hearts of believers are connected to each other by invisible threads. The believers, in their love, mercy, and compassion for one another, are like one body. If one limb suffers, the whole body feels pain. Sahih Muslim. This hadith underscores the depth of attachment. It is not superficial, but visceral and intimate. When two hearts are connected, there is a spiritual echo that links their feelings and reactions. Even if one heart is confused, the other can sense this connection and feel a form of implicit guidance. Allah uses these bonds to teach us patience, understanding, and mutual support.
It is important to understand that confusion in the heart is not a sign of weakness or defect. On the contrary, it reveals the subtlety of the human soul and the complexity of the emotions we experience. Hearts are not simple instruments. They are receptacles of experiences, memories, attachments, and desires. Allah, in His infinite wisdom, sometimes allows our hearts to be troubled to remind us to seek guidance and clarity. Deep attachment can thus serve as a mirror to our own spirituality, showing us where our intentions are sincere, where our patience is tested, and where our trust in Allah needs to grow. Ultimately, understanding the spiritual attachment of hearts comes down to recognizing that every connection has a purpose. Even confused hearts have a purpose and a place in the divine plan. This invisible but powerful connection reminds us that we are never alone in our emotions. Allah sees, guides, and protects our hearts, and uses these connections to draw us closer to Him and teach us the true meaning of love and compassion. Every intense emotion, every deep attachment, and every confusion of the heart is actually a path to greater understanding, strength, and patience, and a more sincere connection with the divine and with others. 2. Confusion of the heart. Confusion of the heart is a universal and profoundly human experience. The soul sometimes feels a mixture of conflicting emotions: love and doubt, attachment and fear, hope and uncertainty. This complexity can make it difficult to understand one's own feelings and those of others. In a spiritual context, this confusion is never accidental. Allah, in His infinite wisdom, observes every emotional state and every hesitation. Confusion of the heart can be the Creator's way of testing a person's patience, sincerity, and the depth of their attachment. Let's take a concrete example. Someone may feel deep love for another person, but not know how to express this feeling. This person may feel paralyzed by the fear of rejection or by uncertainty about the sincerity of their emotions. Internally, they are torn between the desire to approach the other and the fear of making a mistake. This mixture of emotions creates a state of confusion, where the heart is irresistibly drawn while also being deeply uncertain. Even if the person appears outwardly calm or distant, their heart is actually very active, oscillating between attachment and doubt. From an Islamic perspective, this confusion is not simply an emotional difficulty. It is a spiritual moment that requires reflection and patience. Allah observes and understands what goes on in hearts better than anyone. The Quran says, Allah knows what you conceal and what you reveal. Quran 64:4. This means that even if we are uncertain, our feelings and intentions are always known to Allah. Confusion, far from being an obstacle, can become a guide. It encourages the believer to seek clarity, pray for guidance, and remain patient in the face of the uncertainties of life and relationships. Confusion of the heart is also a reminder of human nature. We cannot control everything, and our emotions do not always follow logic or reason. It pushes us to depend more on Allah for guidance and understanding. From this perspective, every hesitation and doubt are opportunities for spiritual growth. A person learns to balance their feelings, distinguish sincere attachment from fleeting impulses, and develop deep patience in the face of the complexities of love and relationships. It is also crucial to understand that confusion does not extinguish the value of the bond. Even in doubt, a heart deeply attached to another retains an invisible and powerful force. Allah sees this genuine attachment and subtly guides each person's steps. This process may take time, but it strengthens the sincerity of love and prepares the ground for more balanced, mature, and caring relationships. Thus, the confusion of the heart becomes a spiritual school, where the believer learns to recognize their emotions, submit them to Allah, and cultivate a love informed by patience and faith. Ultimately, Every confused heart is fertile ground for divine guidance. Confusion is not a sign of weakness, but a precious moment to turn to Allah, understand one's emotions, and develop a deep connection not only with the other, but also with the Creator. Patience in the face of confusion, reflection on one's feelings, and calling on divine guidance transform uncertainty into wisdom and spiritual strength, revealing that even in moments of doubt, sincere attachment is seen, understood, and guided by Allah. 3. How deep attachment influences relationships. Deep attachment between hearts has a significant impact, both emotionally and spiritually. When a bond is sincere and pure, it can become a source of support, comfort, and guidance. The emotions we feel for another are not simply superficial reactions. They shape our inner state, influence our thoughts, and guide our actions. Love, concern, and hope become essential components of the relationship, transforming every interaction into an opportunity for growth and spiritual reflection. A healthy attachment is characterized by a balance between closeness and autonomy. Hearts can be deeply connected without losing their individuality or inner freedom. In this type of relationship, love becomes a catalyst for goodness, patience, and compassion. The people involved encourage each other to grow, remain committed to Allah, and cultivate sincerity in their actions. The relationship becomes a safe space where every emotion, even the most vulnerable, can be shared without fear of judgment, and where divine guidance is recognized as the central pillar. On the other hand, an attachment that troubles the soul can create emotional and spiritual imbalances. When love becomes possessive, or when one heart becomes excessively dependent on another, the bond can breed anxiety, jealousy, and insecurity. In these situations, the relationship loses its harmony and can distance individuals from the serenity that divine guidance seeks to establish. Allah, in His wisdom, sometimes allows these tensions to arise to demonstrate the need to clarify one's intentions, purify the heart, and restore a healthy balance in relationships. To illustrate the depth of these bonds, consider the example of two close friends who share absolute trust. Each feels the other's worry and joy as if they were their own. Their attachment is deep but balanced. They support each other while respecting each other's freedom. This dynamic creates a spiritual space where love and compassion become an extension of their faith, and every action is imbued with sincerity. Even when moments of confusion or disagreement arise, the bond remains strong thanks to their patience and constant reliance on Allah for guidance. Another story may be that of romantic love imbued with spirituality. Two deeply attached hearts may endure periods of uncertainty and doubt, but their relationship is founded on trust in Allah's guidance. Each understands that attachment is not merely emotional. It is a mirror of their spiritual commitment. The initial confusion becomes a learning experience. The waiting becomes an exercise in patience. And love transforms into a force that uplifts the soul rather than disturbs it. Intense emotions, far from weakening them, become instruments of growth and spiritual purification. Thus, deep attachment influences our relationships by showing us the extent to which emotions and spirituality are linked. It reveals our strengths and weaknesses, teaching us patience, humility, and compassion. Hearts sincerely connected to other hearts become channels of divine guidance, where every gesture, every word, and every silence carries the possibility of spiritual learning. Whether the bond is between friendship, family, or love, its depth can transform the lives of those who participate in it, provided that sincerity, patience, and reliance on Allah remain at the center of every interaction. 4. Allah's role in guidance. Allah's role in guiding our hearts is fundamental and omnipresent. Every emotion, every attachment, and every moment of confusion we experience is seen by Him with infinite clarity. He knows what we feel, even when we ourselves do not fully understand our feelings. This divine observation is not passive. It is active and benevolent. Allah subtly guides hearts toward what is beneficial, removes what could be harmful, and transforms even confusion into profound learning. Allah's guidance manifests itself in many ways. Through life's events, interactions with others, moments of inner reflection, and subtle signs in our daily surroundings. When the heart is deeply attached to someone, but confusion dominates their emotions, divine guidance becomes especially crucial. Allah uses these moments to teach patience and clarity. He invites believers to turn to Him in prayer, seeking guidance and light to understand the truth of their feelings. Prayer then becomes a powerful tool for stabilizing the mind and heart. It is not simply a matter of asking for an immediate solution, but of recognizing that the human soul needs guidance, wisdom, and support in every relationship and attachment. By seeking Allah's guidance, the believer learns to distinguish sincere attachment from fleeting impulses and to evaluate their emotions in the light of faith and reason. Patience also plays a central role in this guidance. Confused hearts need time to clarify and understand themselves. Allah teaches that waiting is not a punitive ordeal, but a means of purifying and strengthening the soul. Patience in the face of uncertainty develops inner strength, humility, and the ability to view situations wisely. Those who know how to wait and trust in divine wisdom often discover that their deep attachments, initially a source of confusion, become blessings or valuable lessons. Patience also allows one to transform intense emotional experiences into opportunities for spiritual growth and closer connection with Allah. Trust in divine wisdom is another essential aspect of this guidance. Sometimes, the heart remains troubled despite all efforts to understand or control emotions. In these moments, Allah invites the believer to detach himself from absolute control and recognize that His plans are beyond human comprehension. This trust does not mean inaction or passivity, but rather a conscious letting go that allows the soul to free itself from anxiety and worry. Attachments, whether to friends, family, or love, then find their rightful place, and confusion gradually gives way to clarity and serenity. Finally, deep attachment can be transformed into a blessing or a spiritual lesson, depending on how the believer responds to divine guidance. When emotions are aligned with patience, sincerity, and prayer, they become a source of personal and spiritual growth. Even confusion and pain can prove to be instruments through which Allah purifies the heart, strengthens faith, and teaches the importance of dependence on Him. Thus, every connection, every intense emotion, and every moment of uncertainty becomes a vehicle for wisdom and a manifestation of Allah's loving kindness. In conclusion, Allah never leaves a confused heart without guidance. His oversight, wisdom, and kindness transform emotional experiences into spiritual lessons. Prayer, patience, and trust in divine wisdom enable believers to navigate the complexity of attachments and understand the depth of their relationships. Thus, even when the heart is deeply attached but confused, every feeling becomes an opportunity for growth, a reminder of Allah's presence, and a path to clarity and inner serenity. 5. Tips for managing a confused heart. Managing a confused heart requires discernment, patience, and spiritual guidance. Emotional confusion is normal and human, but when it becomes persistent, it can cloud judgment and affect the quality of relationships. To clarify one's emotions, it is essential to adopt both a practical and spiritual approach so as not to be overwhelmed by inner turmoil. The first step is to step back and observe one's feelings without judgment. It is common for the soul to get lost in repetitive thoughts or imaginary scenarios. Taking the time to notice, describe, and analyze one's emotions helps distinguish between genuine attachment and anxiety or fear. For example, asking, "Am I attached to this person for their own good or to fulfill a selfish desire?" can clarify the heart's feelings and reduce confusion. This practical introspection serves as the foundation for any process of emotional clarity. Beyond introspection, spiritual methods play a central role. Dhikr, the repetition of Allah's names and attributes, purifies the heart and brings the mind to serenity. Sincere prayer, especially that which seeks guidance and enlightenment in decision-making, creates a direct connection with the Creator and helps calm tumultuous emotions. Consulting with trusted and wise people, whether religious scholars or experienced mentors, can also provide a valuable outside perspective. This enlightened guidance helps distinguish between fleeting feelings and genuine attachments, while offering concrete strategies for acting in a balanced manner. Continuous self-reflection is also essential. It involves evaluating one's own actions and intentions, recognizing repetitive emotional patterns, and seeking solutions that respect both the heart and faith. For example, asking oneself, "Does this emotional reaction bring me closer to Allah or distance me?" helps keep the heart aligned with divine guidance. Moments of solitude, meditation on the Quran, and regular prayer are powerful tools to strengthen this reflection and clarify attachments. Finally, it is crucial to remember that the heart must remain attached to Allah above all else. Even in the deepest human love, the spiritual priority must be the relationship with the Creator. A heart centered on Allah is able to navigate confusion with patience, discernment, and balance. When Allah is at the center, emotions find their rightful place. They become instruments of spiritual growth rather than sources of confusion. This perspective not only helps manage current confusion, but also prevent unhealthy attachments in the future, always maintaining faith and trust in divine wisdom. In summary, managing a confused heart involves introspection to identify the nature of emotions, spiritual practices such as dhikr, prayer, and consultation to obtain guidance and serenity. Continued personal reflection helps align one's feelings with faith. A constant reminder that one's primary attachment must be to Allah, the guarantor of clarity and inner peace. By combining these approaches, the believer can transform the confusion of the heart into an opportunity for spiritual and emotional growth, developing patience, wisdom, and depth in all relationships. 6. The connection between human love and divine love. Human love, when sincere and pure, can become a mirror of divine love. The deep relationships we form with others often reflect the principles of guidance, patience, and kindness embodied by Allah. Every interaction marked by respect, compassion, and understanding becomes a tangible manifestation of divine wisdom and mercy. In this way, a deep attachment to another human being is not merely emotional. It is also spiritual, and it can serve as a bridge to a more conscious and intimate connection with Allah. When a heart is deeply connected to another, the emotions it feels, whether love, concern, joy, or even confusion, become opportunities for spiritual learning. These experiences allow us to practice patience, tolerance, and forgiveness, while developing the capacity to love without excessive attachment or unhealthy dependency. It is in this dynamic that human love can reflect divine love. It teaches that true attachment is not about possessing or controlling another, but rather about accompanying, supporting, and elevating them while maintaining sincerity, purity, and faith. Deep attachment can thus be compared to a mirror that reveals not only the depth of our feelings toward others, but also our relationship with Allah. A heart that learns to balance human love and spiritual guidance discovers that complex emotions are not obstacles, but instruments of growth. Every hesitation, every doubt, or every moment of confusion becomes a reminder of Allah's presence and the importance of turning to Him for clarity and inner peace. The human connection then becomes a school where the believer learns to love with discernment, humility, and wisdom. Furthermore, seeing the beauty in the complexity of human emotions strengthens gratitude and wonder for creation. Attachments, conflicts, impulses of the heart, and moments of confusion are all signs of the depth and richness of human experience, guided by the divine hand. By recognizing this, the believer develops a spiritual sensitivity that transforms human love into a reflection of Allah's mercy and infinite patience. Thus, every relationship becomes an opportunity to practice faith in action, strengthen connection to the Creator, and cultivate bonds marked by sincerity, respect, and kindness. Finally, the main encouragement is to view every emotion, whether joyful or troubled, as a manifestation of divine wisdom. Deep attachment, even when it seems confusing or complex, is an invitation to observe, learn, and grow. It reminds us that the beauty of life lies in the diversity and depth of emotional experiences, all illuminated by Allah's guidance and love. In this way, the human heart, when aligned with faith and patience, becomes a faithful mirror of divine love, capable of reflecting the infinite light, compassion, and mercy of the Creator into the tangible world. In conclusion, the central message of this reflection is clear. Every heart, even when confused or deeply attached to another, is under the constant guidance of Allah. Self-understanding, patience in the face of complex emotions, and reliance on divine guidance are essential for navigating deep attachments. Emotional life is not simply a set of instinctive reactions. It is a school where the believer learns to balance their feelings, purify their intentions, and recognize Allah's wisdom in every bond they form. Patience is one of the pillars of this guidance. When a heart is troubled or uncertain, it is easy to be overwhelmed by worry, fear, or frustration. However, these moments are opportunities provided by Allah to strengthen faith and refine discernment. By practicing patience, the believer learns to accept that some attachments and emotions require time to be fully understood. Patience is not simply passive waiting, but an active practice of trust, reflection, and prayer, which allows the heart to clarify and purify itself. Reflecting on one's own bonds and attachments is also crucial. Every relationship, whether friendly, familial, or romantic, offers a mirror to observe the depth and sincerity of our emotions. It is important to ask oneself, are my feelings balanced and sincere? Are they aligned with Allah's guidance? Such introspection, guided by faith, allows us to transform moments of confusion into learning, to distinguish true love from excessive attachment, and to strengthen the quality of our relationships. Emotions thus become instruments of spiritual growth, not sources of trouble or imbalance. Allah always guides those whose hearts are sincerely attached to Him and to others with kindness. Even when confusion seems to dominate, even when attachment seems too intense or difficult to understand, divine mercy and wisdom are present to guide the believer. Every emotional experience, every deep connection, and every moment of doubt is an opportunity to strengthen faith, purify intention, and practice patience, compassion, and humility. The heart, when aligned with divine guidance, becomes capable of navigating challenges with serenity and clarity. Thus, we are invited to meditate on our own relationships and how our hearts react to attachments and emotions. Allah's guidance is always accessible to those who seek the truth with sincerity and humility. By recognizing His presence in every interaction, practicing patience, and cultivating spiritual reflection, we can transform even the deepest confusion into wisdom and inner growth. Every attached heart, when it remains faithful to sincerity and faith, becomes a vehicle of light, kindness, and divine guidance for itself and others. Ultimately, this journey through attachment, confusion, and divine guidance reminds us that emotional life is not a chaos to be feared, but a path to be understood. Sincerity, patience, and connection to Allah allow the heart to find clarity and peace, transforming every deep connection into a spiritual blessing. May each viewer take this message to heart and reflect on their own relationships, always seeking guidance, purity, and kindness in all the connections they form.